Greg from Cheekface. Let's talk about Talking Heads live at Rock Pop Festival in Dortmund.
With the quote unquote side musicians, they're just credibility maxing. The four core members of the band, they all kind of look like a different serial killer. Adrian Belew does not look like a serial killer. He looks like he's having a great time wearing this McDonald's yellow and red outfit. The words will make more sense if you're dancing. It seems impossible that the fucking Talking Heads would have to tell the audience to physically show some connection to the music.
If you ever watch the songs out of order, you can always put them in order by how drenched he is. It's crazy, you know?
Yes, you can't ignore it after like 3 or 4 songs. Our friend who's having a birthday party, would you guys do Talking Heads? We learned those songs very deep, and that continues to be incorporated in like our songwriting all the time.
Addressing the camera, arms out, in a suit. In the Living Lo-Fi video, you're in a suit and you're perfectly in the center of the frame, looking at the camera, directly addressing someone watching the video. I mean, again, I don't want to sound projecting too much, but did you just rip that off or what? Hi there, welcome to This Must Be Talking Heads. I'm Rodney, the world's best and only Talking Heads historiologist. Today we have another installment in what I'm sort of loosely calling Bootcamp, where we go back through all the Talking Heads bootlegs and start to analyze them and deconstruct them and talk about them. And I usually try and get someone to help me do that. And today I've got an absolutely amazing guest, the frontman from America's local band, Cheekface. If you don't know Cheekface, they're an indie band from Los Angeles, California. One of the ways that they're unique is that Greg, the frontman, and Mandy, the bass player, they're a songwriting team. They share the songwriting duties between them. But another thing that's really unique about Cheekface, and we mentioned this a little bit, but I wanted to be explicit about it, is that they have a distinctive style.
Listen to your heart. No. Keep on keeping on. No. Just say no to drugs. No. Eat a healthy lunch. No. Draw outside the lines. No. Pay your parking tickets. No. Buy one, get one free. No. Turn the other cheek. No.
Cheekface is certainly not the first band in the world to do this kind of talk singing style that Greg does, but it is very distinctive. And we touch on it a little bit, but I realized later that if you weren't familiar with Cheekface, that might be a bit of a strange point. If you're watching this because you're a Talking Heads fan, then here's what we have in store for you. I asked Greg to do some homework and watch the Talking Heads show from the Rock Pop Festival from 1980. That's the show from Dortmund. So it's an 8-song set from that full set list of 14 songs. It's trimmed down to 8 core songs, which gives us plenty of time to deconstruct everything and have a good chat. So we sort of zigzag back and forth between talking about Talking Heads and talking about Cheekface, but there's plenty in store for fans of one or both or either. Especially by the end of this, I hope you're a fan of both. All right, I think that's enough from me. So without further ado, I'll throw it over to my chat with Greg from Cheekface. What a great day for me to get to talk to you about my favorite band with someone who fronts my other favorite band. It's great to meet you. How are you going?
I'm doing just fine. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm about to embarrass you by gushing over how great Cheekface is, but thank you for agreeing to do this. If people are checking this out, I imagine there'll be a cross-section of people who are Talking Heads fans and Cheekface fans, and I'll get into it in a sec, but I think that there's a bit of a vector from being a Talking Heads fan into being a Cheekface fan, which is great for you. But for people who don't know who Cheekface is, would you mind giving us a bit of background and how it came to be and where things are at today?
Cheekface is a indie rock trio, power trio from Los Angeles, California. We started writing songs in 2017. We started putting them out in 2018. We're this year, 2025, as we're taping this, we put out our 5th album, which was called Middle Spoon. All of the records have been self-released or self-managed. We're kind of a DIY project in that respect. And, we spend about 3 months out of the year on the road. And this year we did a bunch of shows in the US and Canada and the UK. So we'll probably be doing that same thing in 2026, which I imagine is when people are hearing this anyway.
Yeah, I think we'll try and get this out January, but it'd be great to know. I'll ask you later what your plans for 2026 are and where things are at. I assume there seems to be a cycle of record an album, tour the album, record another album. Like
you know what? Many bands have done it before us, and we have taken up the mantle of recording music and then going on tour.
The way I heard about Cheekface was in 2021, I guess it was, I got COVID and I reached out to my Talking Heads community to say, people, I'm sick. I'm in bed. I need books, I need movies, and I need music recommendations. And someone sent me a message and said, hey, Rod, I know you love Talking Heads. This band has a live set that they recorded and it's on YouTube. It's like rough, but you can watch it, of Talking Heads songs. And I was like, I'll give them a chance. They've obviously got great music taste. This was like October. And then I discovered all your other albums. And by the end of the year, you get your end of the year stats and your wrap in the music streaming services. Cheekface had shot up to the top of my listening for that year in just the last few months. And I calculated how many albums I must have listened to every day, and it was like embarrassing. It was like that was all I did for those last few months that year.
Yeah. We 99.6% of people think we're the most annoying thing they have ever heard. And then 0.04% of people are like, this is the best music ever created.
And it's really like music created for people exactly like me. So I'm sure that lots of people feel that way. So I
not
was
that
really
many.
not enough.
But they feel it strongly.
We covered before we started recording that I'm in Australia. I think I'm one of those people who very early on was asking, hey, Cheekface, Australia tour, when? Since I asked, everybody seems to be asking, and I know the answer is always the same. One day, but I won't give you a hard time about it. But I just wanted to say that I was one of the first people to ask. But now that everybody asks, I'll stop because it feels like it's getting, like, you got the message. We want you here.
Yeah, we would love to be there. People are like, oh, if I won the lottery, there'd be signs.
Yes.
I think it's like, if we got like a theme song to a TV show, or we got like a song in an advertisement, like, both of which will never happen.
No.
There would be a sign, and the sign would be, we'd immediately announce an Australian tour.
I mean, I will keep dipping back into the Cheekface lore and get your opinions on lots of things, I promise. And for people who are here for that, I promise you should stick around because I'm gonna drill Greg. Like, he doesn't know this, but I'm gonna put the screws on him. But I did give you some homework, which is to say, let's talk about a Talking Heads live show. I picked out, I think, one of my favorite ones to watch. It's a short show in the sense that it's only an 8-song set, but it offers so much, and it's a great opportunity for us to dig into the songs a little deeper without running out of time and having this thing run for 4 hours. But the show I picked was Talking Heads live at Rock Pop Festival in Dortmund, which, to give some chronology for it, this is 1980. Talking Heads they play Heatwave, which is the first show. This is in August. The first show with the expanded band. The world didn't know what was about to hit them. The album hadn't even come out yet. Remain in Light comes out in October. Then there's Live in Rome, which is obviously everyone knows Live in Rome, December 18, 1980. And this show, or there's 2 German shows, but I think this is from December 20, and then there's another show December 21. And people still talk about, in hushed tones, Live in Rome and shows like that. That's just like, this is the absolute peak. So before we dive into the set list proper and talk about all the songs, can you give me like a background of whether Talking Heads was on your radar growing up, whether David Byrne was a creative influence, and whether it hit immediately or if it was a slow burn?
I discovered it in the lamest way possible.
Right.
Which is that I was through a enhanced music nerd, like amateur musicologist phase, and when I was in college, and I looked up Pitchfork's top albums of the 80s, and number 1 was Remain in Light, which It's a terrible place to enter the discography from.
A bit.
It's a great album, but also this was before the most recent remaster came out. So when I put it on, it was very quiet and very small sounding, next to every other album from the 80s,
right,
or late 70s. And so I got it as okay, it's this art school Afrobeat thing. It's not immediately catchy except for Once in a Lifetime, which I knew from kind of the cultural wallpaper of being American, but I didn't know anything about it other than the most memorable lyrics. And I kind of I listened to the album a lot in an effort to understand it and metabolize it. I have to say it didn't immediately become a favorite album. It didn't lead me down a rabbit hole. If I'd have started with Life During Wartime or Psycho Killer, or, This Must Be the Place, there's such obvious songs that you want to go explore more. I was kind of going in from the 7-minute Afrobeat jam angle and kind of not getting it. I knew the album well because I listened to it a lot, but I didn't go into the whole oeuvre until a few years later, out of college. I was at a backyard house party and a guy was DJing vinyl. He was playing one song at a time on just a single turntable. So he's just put on a record, let it play, song
everybody
ends,
wait, I gotta flip it over, I gotta switch. Okay, now start dancing again.
Yeah, exactly. This is a barbecue. This wasn't a dance party.
Sure.
But he threw on Girlfriend Is Better, and I was I knew it was Talking Heads because I knew what Talking Heads sounded like. I'd never heard the song before, but I was just I was just like, oh, banger.
Yeah.
Um, and like this bangs so much more than Remain in Light. And then that kind of like a few years later, like led me into like kind of exploring everything more. And then like when we like not terribly long after we started this band, our friend Kaylin Barnum, who's like a photographer here and knew us from the scene, she shot us on a bunch of shows, and she was having a birthday party, and she was like, I'm having people do CBGB tribute sets. And I'm gonna have Ramones, and I'm gonna have Blondie, and like, would you guys do Talking Heads? And my first thought was like, oh man, like first off, there's only three of us, and
Yeah.
like, how do you do those songs with only three people? It'd be so hard. Also, we'd have to learn a whole set of someone
gotta learn
else's
it.
music, which like we're doing our thing, like we're playing our shows and whatnot. So I was like, oh man, that's so flattering. You would invite us, but like, I don't really think it's gonna work. But let me talk to the bandmates about it. My bandmates, Mandy and Echo, were like, it's a cool idea, but like, that's gonna be so much work. And I was like, and then like the weird thing in my brain that is like, well, if someone else tells me they don't want to do it, I want to make it happen. Like this like weird contrarian thing happened, and
I get that too.
I was like, we could do it.
Yeah.
Why are you guys saying it would be too hard?
Are you saying I can't do this? I'll prove you
Yeah.
wrong.
And so, we kind of put out like a big like casting call of like, hey, anyone who can play an instrument and would like to play a half-hour Talking Heads tribute set, whatever you can play, we
You're
will
hired.
need you. And also, if you want to be a backup singer, like raise your hand. And so we ended up putting together, I think, an 8-piece band for Kaylin's birthday. This is in January of 2020, I want to say. And it was one of the last shows that we did. And like, we learned those 5 or 6 songs we did like very deep at learning all the parts, and also like going to Stop Making Sense and learning some of the dance steps, and like also watched this Dortmund show while we were prepping for it, trying to get other ideas of like, oh, how did they do that part live? Like, how did they do the synth loops in Once in a Lifetime live?
I have some songs I'd like to play. You may ask yourself, well, how did I get here? When the days go by, let the water hold me down. When the days go by, water flowing underground.
We did the show. It was super fun. Then the pandemic happened. We tried to do it one more time after the pandemic. It became so hard to wrangle so many people that it was like, okay, like we tried to schedule it and it fell apart. And then we were just like, all right, like that will live on one time in history. But I will say we learned so much from how those songs work. And that continues to be incorporated in like our songwriting all the time. Like, especially like the Remain in Light songs and later, like there's so many little modules in the music. Like there's so many like 2-beat loops or 1-bar loops or 2-bar loops. And the way those little loops come in and out, like they're played on an instrument. They're not like samples, but they do work in these little tiny watch gears that are grinding at their own different paces. And that's something that like we've written into virtually every song like that we have written since we did that gig. So like basically everything from the last few albums, especially that method of crafting with like little pieces that all run together, became like part of what we do.
There does seem to be a lot people that I talk to who are in bands who are like, they're big bands. They're like, oh, we're a band of 9 people. And I'm like, how do you end up in a band of 9 people? How does it even make sense financially? They're like, well, we saw Talking Heads did it, and so we decided we could do it. Or people will say, I didn't know how to write a song, and then I watched I deconstructed what Talking Heads were doing, and then I realized, oh, I could do that. I could just play one bit that goes all the way through the song and add a variant here and a variant there and just switch them on and off, almost like you're flipping switches. I could do that too. And I think it demystifies creativity, and specifically musical creativity, in a special way that connects with people. And it's one of those things, I mean, everyone makes that reference of like, the Velvet Underground inspired 1,000 bands, and everyone who bought that first, not many people bought that first record, but everyone that did started the band. And not to say that happened with Talking Heads, because they were so famous in a way that maybe the Velvet Underground weren't in their day, but specific people like yourself who are creatively inclined, it gives them tools for their toolkit, I feel. Maybe we should start getting into some of the songs. And again, I'm so glad that you said, oh, the way that they did that, we picked up on that. Because there's a few that I want to call out specifically. But if there's any that you go, oh, yeah, Psycho Killer, oh, that's just the same. We did the same thing on our song. Feel free to jump in with that. I also wanted to acknowledge that I sent you a link, and I didn't know you'd watched this show before, but I sent you a link to a version of this video, and I watched it last night and went, oh my God, this version is garbage. Like the video, I don't know why. Someone has upscaled the video of this show, and the upscaling is atrocious, and it just wobbles. Everything wobbles around on the screen all the time. So if you've ever seen a Talking Heads video that does that, that's the one we're talking about. There's some nicer versions of this footage out there. There's the song Animals, which was on the Talking Heads Chronology DVD if you want a nice version of that song. And I think Cities, Izimbra, Once in a Lifetime, and Cross-Eyed and Painless are on the white box, the brick collection from Talking Heads from way back in the day, 20 years ago. But other than that, if you don't have any of those, but you still want to know what we're talking about so you can follow along, watch the YouTube videos, but maybe, and the audio is rough. The audio, listening to the audio on those YouTube videos is pretty rough, so I'm sorry about that. And the videos, atrocious. Other than that, it's really great. Other than that, this is a great show.
It's really interesting. You mentioned the Velvet Underground influence that kind of spiders out, and that was one of the first things as I started watching this with the intent to metabolize it and not just view it.
Yes.
Was the kind of the art rock coaching tree aspect of what's happening here, because obviously you have Jerry Harrison, who through Modern Lovers is a early Lou Reed acolyte.
Yes.
And being brought into that, but also and I don't know the story of him joining the band. I'm sure people listening to the podcast do, but it definitely for the other three, the art schoolers, incorporating him into the band brought a sort of credibility. We're bringing in a blue blood to show how real we are in this subgenre or micro niche. And then with the side quote unquote side musicians that they bring in for this tour, they are all super blue bloods, because we all watch our favorite bands play, and there's some person playing the extra parts, and they might be good, they might be great, they might be super talented, but you don't necessarily see them as oh, they brought in someone whose credibility is they're just credibility maxing, that the credibility is 10 out of 10. And so, I'm familiar with Adrian Belew as a music nerd, but I'm not a huge Adrian Belew fanatic, but he is a blue blood, blue chip musician, the other projects he's been affiliated with Eno and David Bowie and blah, blah, blah. It's just and of course, King Crimson, it's just yes, if you're going to bring in a guitarist to cover the parts and add some sauce, there's you cannot pick one in that space that's more credible than Adrian Belew. And then likewise for every other musician on the stage, they just are maxed out of what they bring, both in musicality and also in credibility, and how much they elevate what the core, you say the core four musicians, but really the core three musicians are doing. When you think of Jerry Harrison as also a blue blood who's elevating what it is.
Definitely. I think David and Chris and Tina, who have that background in just all kinds of creative, having gone to RISD, having that free-form creative mind that just spirals off in any direction, and their background as painters and so on. But Jerry coming in as he was an architect major or something. So when you think about him being someone who brings obviously a bunch of musical experience, and he had his experience with the Modern Lovers too. But bringing some structural form to the music, and almost like setting it in place and pinning it down so that it's a thing that people can digest and get their head around maybe. But then you're right. I mean, just to go through the rest of the personnel for this tour, it's only Bernie Worrell, just Bernie Worrell,
Right?
pretty handy on the old keyboard. Steve Scales on percussion, Dola McDonald, a monstrous backing vocalist, and pretty good on the tambourine too. Buster Jones, a stage presence like no other, and can slap that thing like a crazy man. So, I mean, to get back to Adrian Belew, maybe, because Psycho Killer is this is the opening song, Psycho Killer. It really becomes the kind of Adrian Belew show, especially at the end of the track, because the band were always jamming out on that song. They would play the song and get to a point, and there would be a turn. And it's like, now we're just going to freak out. And I remember hearing that the first time Adrian played with them, they were like, why don't you just come up for Psycho Killer and play? It's just like basic chords. But at the end, we just go nuts. And he was like, that sounds like, basically, if you look up Adrian Belew in the dictionary, that's basically what it says. So that seemed to be like him, and that song and this band seemed to just be the perfect fit. But this version of this song, I timed how long that last little jammy freak out bit is, and it's over a minute and a half. And it's just the Adrian Belew show.
Yeah, I mean, he really establishes himself as sort of like the larger than life presence on the show, which is like, I mean, the other musicians are also captivating.
They're all great.
So it's like, one, he's just super tall.
Yes.
And two, he's wearing this McDonald's yellow and red outfit that really also calls attention to how gigantic he is.
And he's right up front and really brightly lit as well.
And yes, and he's like smiling, like he's cheesing through it all. Which, like, when you think about, there's this like joke about the Pixies that like every member of the band looks like a different serial killer. And I think you could say that about Talking Heads too. Like the four core members of the band, they all kind of look like a different serial killer. Adrian Belew does not look like a serial killer. He looks like he's having a great time.
All the shows that I remember seeing from Talking Heads from this era was always everyone wearing a button-up shirt with a collar, but then Belew was just like, I'll just wear whatever. Like, I just found this in a thrift shop or something. I thought that was true. I remember I watched this show and I was like, oh, there's actually a few other people wearing shirts doing that thing, which I guess was more acceptable in the early 80s of wearing your own band t-shirt, that's a choice.
I mean, so the band members aren't wearing it. It's the side musicians who are wearing it.
Yes.
And
Buster.
I think that is like I think that's a different vibe, because like our keys player will wear a Cheekface shirt like on tour sometimes too. Like, and he's a touring member of the band. And like, I think it's kind of like an immigrant pride thing, like as much as like I would not wear an American flag t-shirt, like, someone who emigrated here would wear one without thinking of it. And it's kind of like, I'm happy to be here. I'm proud I'm here. Like, yeah, I'm like, wearing the shirt.
Well, yeah, okay. I'm not saying it's invalid. It's just I don't see many bands, even with supporting members, wearing their own t-shirt. It seems like it's almost like risky in some weird way, almost like laughing at your own joke or something. But, let's bring it back.
I know what you're saying. I would say, like, growing up, like my band where I watched 1,000 different live shows and know like, oh, the version from this show is better than the version from that show was Metallica. And Metallica,
cool.
They had the bass player has to wear the band merch on stage every show, like thing. Just like, we got to sell t-shirts. Here's a chance to advertise them for an hour and a half. Like, every single, you will not find a Metallica show where the bass player is not wearing a Metallica t-shirt.
Didn't know that.
Up through the Jason Newsted era. So up into the like mid aughts.
Wow.
It's always like Newsted in the Metallica shirt. And yeah, you wouldn't see them do it on Stop Making Sense because of the type of presentation of the show. But on this one, it doesn't seem too out of place.
No, it's fine. And I mean, David wears a tight button-up shirt, obviously like buttoned right down to the wrists, and you can watch him get more and more sweaty throughout the show. If you ever watch the songs out of order, you can almost put them in order by how drenched he is. It's crazy,
Yes, you can't ignore it after like 3 or 4 songs into the set. You're like, wow, he really has fully sweated through the shirt.
No, he has. And then the other thing I noticed about just the look, because we'll move on from the look in a minute. We'll get, because there's important musical stuff. We're having a serious musical conversation here. But Tina has amazing hairstyle. It's his angular, like front, like ponytails that are not even on the side, but literally on the corner of her temple. Just such an interesting artistic sort of look. Like, I don't know, I need to be stage ready. Fine.
Yeah, I mean, they all look like to me they all look to be styled.
They do.
Like there was some thinking that went into it, but you can't help but, or I can't help but like just like in my head put it next to Stop Making Sense. And it is not like wardrobed or costumed, and which makes it seem like the stakes are so much lower on this show than on Stop Making Sense, which I think they are. Like, and you were pointing out from the chronology, it's like Remain in Light is out, but like the once in a lifetime MTV phenomenon is like still a ways in the future. It's still a ways off. And my response when the first notes of Once in a Lifetime hit in this show is to go like, yeah, but like no one in the audience reacts at all. Like they just have not heard the song yet, and so
we'll get to Once in a Lifetime in a little bit because I've got a lot to say about that one. But I guess the one that they just like to pick up on that thread you just said, when they start playing. I mean, obviously the first song, the audience has been waiting for the band to start playing, so of course they're going to clap. But for it to be Psycho Killer and for them to recognize, oh, it's that song. They cheer. Like there's a cheer like you don't get at the start of really any other song in this set, which is pretty crazy. And then we're talking about a song, it came out over 50 years ago, or they wrote it over 50 years ago. Like the band had their 50th anniversary this year and they released a music video, for heaven's sake, for the song. And we've just got like an unearthed recording from even earlier when they were at RISD, a recording they had from there. So this is a crazy song that's just had a crazy life. How would you feel in 45 years from now? Someone's like, oh, we found this recording of Greg playing a demo of Dry Heat Nice Town or whatever. And like, I don't even know how you would process that.
Yeah. I mean, everybody has a different relationship to their like breakthrough song. For us, like, none of our songs were hits. And I know that like in now, like Psycho Killer's a hit, has like hundreds of millions of streams or whatever. But like at the time, I don't know how big of a hit it actually was. Like, and if it's like a little engine that could, kind of thing. And so, I think that like most likely it's kind of like, wow, it's cool that the song we put out, 5-6 years ago, like brought us here to Germany. Like that's pretty cool. And it wasn't on the radio when it came out. Like it was just a song we did. And
it was the song that, if you knew the band, it was the song that you played for people to get them to maybe get interested. But that doesn't mean that it's a song that has its own magnetic power that draws people in from outside of that bubble. But if you're inside the bubble, it's the one.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you want to move on to Cities, the next song? This one, I think, in the Talking Heads back catalogue, it's one that really jams along, and it's so infectious, but people don't talk about it in the same way they talk about the other big song, like Slippery People or, something like that, or Life During Wartime. But, it's a fun song with a bit of humour, which is something that, not like Talking Heads were lacking, but it's a good combination of many elements of what they do well, and this is a great performance of it.
Yeah, it's definitely like it goes into this deeper dance groove or this deeper like Afrobeat groove or something that like, is just simply not present in Psycho Killer. So they're just they're quickly like, okay, we did our little like rock tune, and now we're like going to get into the like stuff that feels like what we're doing now.
But David starts moving. All of a sudden, he's more like getting dancing.
Yeah, totally. And I can't remember if it's like in this song or one of the later ones where he makes the crack about like the words will make more sense if you're dancing. And like also just the idea of them like kind of having to fight the audience to like be engaged and to show to physically show some connection to the music. I personally found it really relatable, and of course, like it seems impossible that like the fucking Talking Heads would have to tell the audience like, hey, like if you act like you're enjoying the music, we will enjoy it more to do it for you. Like, when we play a show, when Cheekface plays a show, like usually people are there to have a fun night. But like I don't know, every 10th or 12th show, like me and Mandy will walk on stage and walk off stage after the show. And the first thing we'll turn to each other is say like, did you feel like you had to work really hard for that one? Like, and it's not because people didn't enjoy the show. Like, it's just like, you don't, like, sometimes like the audience wants to come with you, and sometimes they want to like chill out and let you do your thing. And like that could be a sold out show. It's like a lot of times when we're playing in a small market and playing to 100 people, like those shows will bang because those 100 people are like, yes, we are here for this weird fucking band that we love. And sometimes it's the sold out show where people are just like, okay, well, we're all here, we're packed in pretty tight. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been hot today and I'm tired and I worked all day and I just want you to play the show so that I can say that I went to the show.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I've seen you.
I mean, it's not even, I don't think it's like coming from a cynical place, probably coming from like, it's the wrong day of the week or it's too early or it's too late, like also when the show sold out, it's like the people who all want to dance or mosh or whatever, like they have trouble making it to each other.
That's true. That's true.
So like that can also like kind of isolate the most enthusiastic people who can kind of, when they're together, create a nucleus where everyone is like, wow, that looks fun. I'm going to get in the mosh pit. Or like, I don't have to mosh, but I could shake my hips or sing along,
Yeah.
So, but I was just like, wow, relatable. And I don't know if that was a song or like a song later in the set. But.
I guess this show being part of a festival means that maybe not everybody there is there for them necessarily. And, like you say, they're still breaking through in that international way. They've probably broken through nationally in America, but going overseas being just something totally different. Some of the things that I picked out on this one, which I thought you might be interested in or could talk about as a guitar guy. Baloo plays a guitar solo with a slide on this song, and later in Stop Making Sense, like Cities is an outtake, but David will be like, I don't have a slide with me, but he slides the neck across his microphone stand. I don't know if you've ever seen that. I guess that's emulating this a little bit, but I mean, he's sort of getting that droning sound with the slide on a solo like this. I mean, have you ever like experimented with a slide, or is there any interest in getting into drone sounds?
Yeah. Well, I do know how to play slide. Like like probably in one of my guitar nerd like woodshed phases, like that was just like a thing where I spent like 3 weeks like trying to figure it out. So I can play it. Like in our band where I'm the only guitar player, like, and I have to cover both rhythm and lead sounds, like doing like slipping a slide on and off, which you have to do in order to like play full chords and then also play slide, really difficult. Like it just takes too much time away from the instrument. And if there was like, like more time to do that, I would think of it. But like we also, because we tour with a synth, we always record with synths, and especially with a Moog synthesizer that like is ours that we like put on a lot of records. That thing has a slide. Like it doesn't have a physical slide, but like the pitches slide from one to the next, and you can adjust how long or short they slide for. So like when we want that like long stretch from one pitch to the next that you get from slide guitar, like a lot of times we'll put it in the synthesizer because it will give like a kind of similar effect. Obviously it's different when you do it on guitar, but like kind of a similar type of articulation.
I would say that you have a very clean style and you love to like grind on chords, but you can also solo, and it's noodly. You get noodly. I think that's fair to say. But is there ever any like, I know that I've heard you say in the past, like some of our songs are too complex, and I'm going to pull it back a bit because, that it doesn't, sometimes it's too complicated. It doesn't need to be this complicated, but I wonder whether like Adrian Belew is like the king of innovation and being complex. So do you ever think like, well, I can pare back how complex this is to play if I add a little pedal, add a little new effect or something? Is it ever tempting to sort of substitute and get that balance?
I mean, I am a very ham-fisted guitar player. Like,
please don't talk about yourself like that. You're an amazing guitar player.
Oh, thank you. I didn't mean that I'm not amazing. Go on. No, I mean, like, I like to play hard. I like to dig into the strings, and I like to use the sound of the guitar, like itself, the instrument itself, the pickups, and the amplifier to do almost everything. And like, my pedal board, like it does have 5 or 6 pedals on it, but like those pedals are used like for a few bars here and there. Like for almost 100% of the set, all you're hearing is like my fingers, the instrument, and the amplifier. Someone like Baloo, who's like obviously so deep into using the external things to create different types of sounds and different textures, like, you know, I never went down that like road of like trying to learn and create those kinds of things. It's really cool when people do, but like, you know, I was kind of like, again, sort of in like the Metallica mold of like learning to play guitar off that music. Like it's either like completely clean or like totally crunched. And there's just no variance. There's not even like a volume roll off. So it's like, you know, you're either on or off. And, you know, I think like as a guitarist, it does challenge you to do things with like articulation, like how you slide into or out of a note, how you bend into or out of a note, like, you know, how long you hold a note, like do you use your picking hand to inflict more noise onto the string to like, you know, make it spatter more when like the note's articulated. So like, you know, to me, it's like when you watch like a violinist and like you see them like dig into the strings with the bow, or you watch them use the harmonics and like barely touch the strings. It's like, okay, like you have a big vocabulary of stuff you can do without needing to affect it. Like you can get lots of different types of sounds out of the instrument. Like I think like one of the amazing things about watching this show and watching what Baloo does is like kind of his hybridization of both like using the effects on the floor with also like the extended technique in his fingers. Like there's one like solo where I like kind of noted that he was like creating like a super high bend harmonics effect by like pushing the strings into the pickup magnets, which like, and he had like a specific interval he was trying to jump, like he was like maybe a fifth or a sixth. And so he's like playing this high note and then he's banging the strings into the pickup magnets, which make it jump up by that interval. And it was just like, man, like the level of like creativity and also the level of like expertise, because you have to know where you're gonna like where and from what angle you're gonna be able to make the magnet do that trick. Like it's easy to get a crazy sound. It's hard to get the crazy sound. Like that's one of the like tricks of playing guitar. So you know,
definitely the magic of Baloo as well.
Yeah, it's I mean, I was just like, damn, I'm about to spend like 3 or 4 hours just like hitting the strings with the pickup magnets, trying to figure out how to do that.
He also hits the neck sometimes as well. He sort of like gets right up onto the neck. And I guess that's also about stretching the strings, but maybe he gets more control, like less stretching, but more control. I don't know. But yeah, that's the stuff that I just see him doing stuff that you imagine a guitar, like a guitarist kind of does that. But when you see people going like this, you're like, this is something special.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's like, again, it's just using the instrument for all the things it can do on its own. That like if you pick closer to the bridge, it sounds one way. If you pick closer to the neck, it sounds a different way. If you pick on the neck, it sounds a different way. Like this is all just different paints you can put in the palette, or different amounts of white blended into each shade of blue that like, you know, creates a wider variation.
Shade of blue, nice pun there. Okay. Izimbra. So that's the next track. And there's 3 guitar parts in this one. So there's plenty to listen to and dig into. This is the one also, he says, if you dance, you might understand the words better, which is ironic given the lyrical content, all gibberish. And again, this show, I mean, it picks up from Cities, I guess, the humor of that, but carries on into this one, which is also like just what a blend of everything that they do well. Again, art rock, like Dada lyrics, but you could dance to it, and it's got 3 fucking guitar parts to it. Incredible. And Bernie really is holding things on the keyboard there. So I've noticed Jerry's guitar part for this, he gets the repetitive one, and it's that for 5 minutes or something. And I imagine that he must just be like at the end going, Jesus, give me a break.
Yeah, I mean, as a guitar player who plays repeated parts that go on and on for like several minutes at a time, yeah, like it's real.
Yeah,
This struggle
sure.
is real. Is this the first one on the show where the whole band is on stage?
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah,
Buster Jones comes on and Bernie Worrell comes on. Yeah, that's right.
right. And you may know, I certainly was just wondering, like the Tina on synth and not on
Mm.
bass thing, like what is there to that? Like I especially like on Stop Making Sense, she plays bass the whole show, except like there's one or two songs she
It's
plays
one
synth
song.
bass,
Yeah, yeah,
and then
like
there's
a
like
bass moog.
yeah, and then
Um,
there's like one song maybe is it like this must be the place where she might play guitar on that one, but like she's for the whole show she's just like on
yeah,
bass.
yeah,
And I'm like I don't I was wondering what like that was about, especially as like a player who's so associated with bass.
yeah. I guess the stories that I've heard around that was, they recorded Remain in the Light. They recorded Remain in Light in studio, and they were, high fiving each other and being like, "This record, this is our best record ever." But then they were confronted with like, "Yeah, how are we going to play this live? That's going to be a challenge." And they were like, "Well, we could recruit some extra people." And they're like, "Yeah, there's those songs where there's interlocking bass lines. How are we going to do that?" So they're like, "Well, we need a second bass player." And I guess that's really where that all starts to happen. As you say, like Stop Making Sense is fine, and there's only one bass player on that show, but I guess they just hadn't quite worked that out yet. I feel like there's a few times in this recording, and this is still early days of them doing a big show with two bass players, but you can see that Tina has to take more of a backstage. She goes backstage or moves to the side of the stage, and you can see that maybe that's maybe something that she's not super happy about. And sometimes she has to shake a tambourine, or she's banging some percussive blocks together at one point and playing parts on a synthesizer. But I mean, I think we all know where she belongs is behind that damn bass. Now, Buster Jones is great. I can only imagine part of it too might be like he has an amazing stage presence, and if you're bringing a second bass player on tour with you, they're not going to come out and play for 3 songs and then sit backstage the rest of it. So you sort of just got to share the load maybe a little bit. But I just imagine that would have been a difficult conversation to have. One of
Yeah, I
many.
mean, I mean, I have no insight into it whatsoever, and I don't want to really speculate, like,
No, sure.
like reading into it or anything. Although, like, it would have been easy enough to be like, okay, like, play bass for these songs where we need multiple bass parts, and then for the ones where we need multiple synth parts or multiple percussion parts,
Do
just
something
play
else.
synth or percussion.
Yeah. Yeah. I think when we get into Once in a Lifetime, which comes next, I think that's the one that it's a shame to look back at the legacy of the band for her to not be behind the bass for that one. But tell me a little bit about this song, because it has a cultural impact. Way, like you said, the music video and everything, it goes way beyond this show, and it's just part of everyone's DNA. And I'm keen to hear how, if at all, it has come through in your creative life.
Yeah, I mean, so this is like clearly the kind of like spoken word into sung chorus is like
Mm-hmm.
something that our
Sounds
band
familiar.
does often. And I don't know if it's like I wouldn't say it's like we started our band and we're like let's write songs like Once in a
Yeah,
Lifetime,
sure.
but certainly this is one of a lineage of songs in like American music that's like this. And also kind of the emotional color of it is certainly harmonizes with what we do. And again, like it's not a song where we're like let's knock off an idea from this song or knock off an emotional color from this band. It's just like I think it's like one of 100 songs like this that kind of like inform what we do. I will say the like opening synth lick, the like synth loop, which like it's different on this performance than it is on Stop Making Sense, where it's actually watered down to be a much simpler
Mm,
loop.
true.
We learned that for our Talking Heads tribute show that we did back in early 2020, and then we started like using like a synth loop, an out of time synth loop in various songs we were writing, either like starting with that or like adding it in
Yeah.
after to like fill out the sound or create a texture. And it is in like it survived through the whole process in the song Vegan Water, which is the last song on the Too Much to Ask album, the one with the dog on it. So that starts with a synth loop that's just like quite similar to the Stop Making Sense version of Once in a Lifetime, and it just runs the whole time, just the same way as it does in Once in a Lifetime. So that's like a specific one where we're like, okay, like let's make a Stop Making Sense Once in a Lifetime type beat.
I have a note here that says, get Greg to acknowledge that vegan water has a reference from Once in a Lifetime.
Okay, there you go.
Got it.
Then yeah, overall, I mean, one crazy thing I learned playing this song, which did not register to me because of how smooth of a listen it is that the phrase shifts over by a half a beat between the verse and the chorus, because like you hear the regular bass line like is 1 2 3 4 da 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 da, but by the time you get to the chorus it shifts over by a half beat, by an eighth note. So like going into it, there's just kind of this like band loses a step. And it was something where as we were learning it, we were like trying to play along with it and being like, oh, like it's not a time change, it's just the phrase shifts over, we have to do that. And we tried learning it by counting it out, and counting it out is just too hard. So like we had to do it by feel, because the count is too weird. So it's just like, especially that first verse, which ends out of time, like the vocal ends out of time. It doesn't have a rhythm going into the chorus. We're like, okay, like there's going to be no pickup. It's just going to be like, we have to feel that's what's happening. And so it had this like trust fall feeling to it. Like everyone's going to change and hopefully it's all at the same time. And then like the first few days of rehearsing it, we just cheesed it in every way. Like we just could not figure out any way to do it wrong. We did it wrong that way. And then like third day, like it just like popped in. And we were like, okay, we didn't change anything. Like we just have like figured out like how to catch the trust fall now. And and then like when we did on the show, we did it without it looking labored in any way. So, and like also it has that, smoothness that the recording has, where you just don't even notice that the whole song is shifted over by a half a beat.
There's this sort of famous story that Brian Eno and the rest of the band seemed to not be able to align on where the beat was. Like, he had thought the beat was in a different spot. So I'm not surprised. And as we sort of said, like, as they were constructing these songs, they were sort of almost stitching together that bit and then this bit. And then it'll just will flow from one to another and boom, you've got a song. But sometimes stitching those things together results in that sort of, it just catches you just off just enough that you feel like this song is sort of calming and familiar, but at the same time it throws me off, which reinforces some of the themes of the lyrics as well. So let's assume that that's a genius move on their part rather than a happy accident. Let's assume it was all on purpose. Talking a little bit about the cultural impact of the song, in particular like the music video, like being a Talking Heads fanatic and doing this for as long as I have and being so obsessed with everything the band has ever done for so long, I project onto the world Talking Heads stuff a lot, and I see connections and people go, what do you mean? That's not a Talking Heads reference at all. But I mean that music video of David Byrne addressing the camera, arms out, in a suit, speaking as if he's talking directly to you. In the Living Lo-Fi video that you've made, there's a little scene where you throw your guitar over your shoulder and you're in a suit and you're framed perfectly in the center of the frame, looking at the camera, directly addressing someone watching the video. I mean, again, I don't want to sound projecting too much, but did you just rip that off or what?
I'll be perfectly honest. The reference was never once discussed. It's
sure.
Probably,
I can believe it.
I mean, I think like the lip syncing frontman in a suit that looks out of place is like a trope as old as promotional video clips itself. And like, it makes watching, I did rewatch the music video for the first time in a while, like, after I watched the show yesterday, and I was trying to make sense of it. And like, because I think like it's the kind of thing where we see so many videos like that. Like it's actually like a really low budget video. And now you could do it with no budget at all. You could just completely make it on your phone. What is it that like creates the magic of that, that like captivated people so much? We've seen it Xeroxed so many times over. both through intentional references and then like references to a reference, and then just it's in the zeitgeist, like it's just in the fabric of society. And so if you're making a music video, like that's just kind of, that's one of the videos at the heart of what music videos are. Like it's there with Thriller, you know, and it's just like, you know, there's just, it's part of what music video is, like the once in a lifetime music video. There's just no, you just can't conceive of the form without, you know, including once in a lifetime as a core example of what it is.
I mean, this particular performance, the only other notes that I have are how strong Dolette's vocals come through at the end. I don't know if that stuck out to you, but she's not holding anything back.
No, I mean, you know, the like the label comes out in that for sure. And like, you know, it's funny, we were when we were on tour, so our front of house mixer, Talisa, she always test the sound system with a song by the band Failure, and she was like, you know, because it's just like it sounds amazing, and also she knows it, like whatever the room sounds like, she now understands what the room sounds like because she knows what that song sounds like. And she asked us, like, you know, like later in our US Canada tour this year, like what you know, what songs are some other songs for you guys where you're like, that's such an amazing sounding song, like I could tune a PA to that. And my answer was Lady Marmalade by LaBelle, which I think is like, I think it's like top 10 songs, and also like that performance, that recording is like top 10 recordings just of anything ever. Like all of the different like American regional subcultures that flow into that song, into its composition, into its arrangement, into the recording, into the performance. Like it is basically like everything good about every strand of like American music, all boiled down to its deepest essence, and just that for the whole song. And like I, you know, it's hard to like, there are some days where I can't think of a better song or recording than that. But yeah, anyways, I mean, overall, like you mentioned that the mix of this video is just total dog shit, which it is. So it does no favors to like anything that's happening.
Really anything.
Except the fact that you hear musically how really great like the performance is by everybody on stage. Nothing is out of tune ever. There's no tempo tears. There's no like back and forth push and pull. There's no problems. Like musically it is just like completely dimed. You know, I think we've all seen like live performance videos from the late 70s, early 80s, where a lot of stuff is overdubbed after to make it sound pretty, because it was so hard then to like capture an accurate signal at all with the technology available. In this video, there's none of that. They didn't make any attempt to go over anything to make it sound better. It all sounds like total dog shit, and it really reveals what an amazing performance it is. So, you know, that backup vocal is one of those things where it's just like, yeah, if you had it to do over again, you wouldn't mic it like that. You wouldn't mix it like that, because it's so revealed. It's like, wow, she just hit it right on the screws.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that this song is not on. For example, people talk again in revered tones about Live in Rome as a show, as a recording, but it's not. I don't think it's in that set list for that. And it's again, that's like, well, what a missed opportunity, because it wasn't the hit at the time, you know. But that's part of the reason why I'm like, I'm not doing that. Let's do Dortmund instead, because at least we get once in a lifetime. Animals is next. We've got 4 songs left. Animals. This is the one that he intros by saying,
20 years of dancing lessons, now you can see the result.
and there's a few, oddly, there's a few dance moves that I think come from the Once in a Lifetime video that he must have shot, but maybe hadn't come out yet or something, that he pulls out for this song, which is like a bit late. And there's a hula dance, like Steve Scales and Dolly McDonald's do a little hula dance at one point towards the end. I mean, it's the song that I notice the physicality coming through, and just that situation of being, we've got so many musicians now on the stage that David doesn't need to play guitar anymore, so he either stands there and doesn't move, or he has to make the choice, I'm going to have to move, so what's that going to be like? I wonder whether you've been faced with a similar situation in your performing career.
I actually like think back to, I can't remember what interview I read with him where he was like, after a few albums, like it became clear that like we were more than just musicians, we were entertainers,
That's
and
true.
the show had to entertain. That dawned on us actually somewhat early in our band. Like
Interesting.
for the first year and a half of existing, no one cared, and we played like every 2 weeks in a shitty bar to no one, which like did give us a lot of time to like dick around with different ways to approach the songs and different ways to present the show. But like right before the pandemic, like in February of 2020, we like mounted like a little mini tour where we played in Chicago, New York, and Philly, and like we were all surprised by how quickly tickets sold for those shows, and we were suddenly like,
Oh shit.
oh, like we can't, one, like we can't play for 30 minutes. Like the show has to be longer, and two, the show has to entertain. It can't just be us reciting
Yeah.
the music. And we had some things that we tried, like playing in bars to no one, where we're like, let's try that. Which, like, we did like a stage invasion where we were just like, anyone who wants to come up on stage, come up on stage. And we'd done that like playing in LA in front of 40 people. And then it's like, yes, 40 people go up on stage, 0 people are in the audience, and it's really easy to execute. If you're playing to 200 or 250 people, like it's actually harder because like people have to get through the audience if they want to go on stage. It's harder for them to get off the stage when it's over, like, so it just like creates this like weird logistical thing. But we were trying that, and we like did these like other gags where it's like you involve the audience, you make them the main character for a while. And yeah, we were just like, we've all been in a lot of bands, so we've all been to a lot of boring shows and played a lot of boring shows. And I think we did the Talking Heads tribute set right before that mini tour where we like went out and really played to fans for the first time ever. And we had just been like, we'd learned the dance steps, we'd learned the asides and like the little like bits of color that you can add, and the other things to like get people involved and keep them engaged. So it's not just a recital. And yeah, I mean, that stuff really came like all came in. Having like 8 people high stepping running, like, that creates a feeling of urgency. Like there were only 3 of us on our first tour. So like that's impossible. But like,
Hard
how
for
do you
echo
get,
as well.
yeah, exactly. And like, I mean, he's probably the one who could do it best of the 3 of us. But he's just more athletic.
Sure.
But yeah, so, it was, but it was like, how do you keep people like involved or engaged in the way that feels like, whoa, so much is happening. Like you want that feeling to come up regularly throughout the show.
That feels like what's going on in this live show. And obviously, like a song like Animals that Talking Heads are playing from just their previous record, they've only been touring for a year or something because they were banging out those albums kind of like you guys do, one every year virtually. It's not like it was an old song that they were tired of. It was just the moment called for something more. So, yeah, and that also made me think of not just, I mean, like those things that you just called out, which are all, I think, really insightful examples that you have from your career. But also, I would say, I mean, I just watched a video last night of you playing Military Gum, and you go into Give It Away by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Military You've done that with lots of songs from the last few years. You also started to dress in a very purposeful way. So I don't know if you want to talk about that, but I feel like that's also like, this isn't a Stop Making Sense show, but again, like the importance, the sudden importance of how you dress seems to have hit Talking Heads, and you seem to have stepped up, in a specific way there as well.
Yeah, I mean, so there's two threads there. No pun intended. The like musical thread of like, we see our music in a conversation. Like we don't see ourselves as being on an island. Like there's like, we're influenced by lots of stuff. We also like lots of stuff that's not an influence. And we also sound like lots of stuff that we don't like. And I think like when, going into like Military Gum on the record, it has a feature from McKinley Dixon, this amazing rapper, We unfortunately have been unable to tour with McKinley, so
Sure.
we can't have him
Yeah.
out there doing it. So we're like, when we get to that part of the set, like, what are we gonna do?
It
And
needs something
we're
to
like,
lift it.
and it's a rap rock moment. It's
Yes.
straight up a rap rock moment on the record. Like, it's
That
not
moment on
a
the
rap.
record, it's transformative. It's just like I thought I was listening to a Cheekface record. Now all of a sudden I'm listening to something else. How did they pull that magic trick? And
Yeah.
then that's why when I saw the live clip, I was like, oh, that's how they brought something else in, and it's just as unexpected as it is when you're listening to the record.
Yeah, and like, it's not like, I mean, well, Mandy's a huge Red Hot Chili Peppers fan. The rest of us, like, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
from Southern California, where you grow up being bludgeoned by Red Hot Chili Peppers,
Fair
and
enough.
it has nothing to do with the music. It just becomes its own cultural signifier when it's like that. We all have different relationships to that song and that band, but we were just like, what can we use as the rap rock moment that like happens here without just like reciting McKinley's verse, but not with McKinley, which is like a low depth of non-creativity to me. Like, we have an opportunity to do something different, so let's do something different.
That's great.
And then like, we do lots of mashups, we do lots of medleys, like our songs medleyed with other people's songs mashed up with each other, like, because again, it's like the music's all in a conversation. Like, there's 12 notes, there's 12 chords, like, like, there's only so many different combinations, so songs are going to resemble each other. And I also, as a music listener, as somebody who, I used to DJ a lot, like, when you're listening to a DJ and a new song comes in and that song, like, as a listener, if you're out dancing to a DJ, like, your reaction when you hear the beginning of that song, coming out of another song, is always, fuck yeah, I love this. And I think, like, I'm like, yes, DJs can do that, but like, a band could also do that, like, by just going into another song, and creating that reaction of like,
Absolutely.
Oh man, like, I didn't know that was going to happen, but I knew that was going to happen, so at least that's like how I feel as a listener. So anyway, so there's that. And then I think, like, as far as like presenting the show, like, and I see, like, in this particular song on the Talking Heads set list, you see where they're like starting to toy with, like, what if there was some choreographed dancing? What if there were some different like modules on stage where it's like, something's happening here, something's happening there, something's happening over there. And like, I think that, like, that's something that we've enjoyed playing with, and certainly is like, it's more inspired by Stop Making Sense, where like it's fully realized into what it is. I've got a custom suit for this, designed by like a local tailor here, who, like, we worked with, being like, here's what the stage backdrop's going to be, here's what the set pieces are, like, here's what color we want this to be, here's what thing we want it to get across. And like, me and Mandy and Frankie DeRosa, who designed and tailored the suit, like, we kind of like we had like a little dialogue, but Frankie did the $1 million lift of actually creating the garments, which, like, there's a little, if you scroll back far enough on our Instagram, there's a little making of thing, to like, watch how it was actually tailored, which is really, really amazing. I don't know. I actually was at, I saw a Mannequin Pussy show, and Missy had an amazing couture outfit that was bright red, and just like, you couldn't look away from her. I mean, she's already a really captivating front woman, in a t-shirt and jeans, but like, in this like, in this crazy couture outfit, it's like, it really communicates something about what the music is, about what the band is, about, where she sits in what the band is with the other people around her. And yeah, I was just like, man, like, that's so cool. Also, I always think I look good in a suit. Like, I don't know if other people think I look good in a suit.
I think most guys do, I think. And I think that's a pretty safe opinion.
Yeah, I think that's true. And, but I certainly think I look good in a suit. So I was like, all right, it probably should be a suit, because like, I'll look good in a suit.
Totally.
So
I think part of it too is not so much that you want to draw attention from others for your own ego or whatever, but part of the show seems to be like, you're the one that directs attention here or over there or where it should be. So if you're not drawing that attention, you can't play that guiding role either. So it's important. Like, it plays a structural and important role in putting on a show.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting observation of what we do. Like I don't think of myself as I don't think of myself as a rock frontman. I think of myself as a band member. Like I think of myself as a guitar
Sure.
player.
Right.
Like more so than I think of myself as a singer.
Hmm.
So so it's like a role that like I've kind of struggled to inhabit. But like I think, as people started to check out what we were doing and become interested in what we are, like I realized like I am the lightning rod. Like the words come out of my mouth, like they're written by me and Mandy, but like they don't come out of Mandy's mouth
No,
usually.
that's right.
So like I'm gonna be the lightning rod for people's attention. And so I must decide what I'm going to do with the lightning strike, and like, yeah, for at least for this most recent tour, it was like, yeah, like there's the lightning strike, is going to be like, I'm going to wear this like bright red suit with these weird symbols on it. The previous tour like was much more like CBGB era Talking Heads inspired. In fact, I would say it's more directly inspired by like the old like
Mm.
Talking Heads visual of like the Brooks Brothers
Yep.
polos
Yep.
and stuff like that, where it's like American preppy upper Manhattan like kind of look to it. Like the previous tour was like vintage designer shirts that I was wearing, like buttoned up to the top.
Right.
Where I was like, obviously like you can get anything for $20 on Depop.
True.
So that was a whole different vibe.
Excellent. I wanted to maybe round off just the set list because there's three songs left: Cross-eyed and Painless, Life During Wartime, and The Great Curve. I feel like almost this is going to be almost sacrilegious, but Cross-eyed and Painless and The Great Curve, you could almost talk about in the same way. Big, monstrous jam songs, vehicles for everybody to do something amazing. Adrian Belew puts a stamp on it, but so does everybody else. Incredible rhythm section work. This is that sort of that side A from Remaining Light. Those three songs that were just everybody would rave about them, would listen to it, and then go straight back to the start and put it back on again. Yeah, I don't know what to say other than just they're monstrous big songs.
Yeah, I mean, they're obviously sister songs that kind of like are two fruits off the same tree.
Yeah.
And like that's how they present on the record. I think that's how they present on the show as well.
Hmm.
Baloo's playing really calls attention to itself, like on these songs on the performance as it does on the record. It made me think about like because I haven't done my Adrian Belew homework, so I was kind of starting to do the Wikipedia level, like
Right.
homework on like what all he's done. And in some ways like Remain in Light is like it's sort of a dead end in the Talking Heads catalog. Like the next record is not like Remain in Light but also more
No.
something, or else
Yeah.
it's
No.
like
You're right. You're right.
it like gets to that point and it's just like we can't go any further than this and we're gonna turn for a pop turn. Like we're gonna like get rid of all of this stuff that we threw, all this kitchen sink stuff we threw in, and we're gonna clean it up completely and like lean into the new wave sound. And like that made me think like, wait, what Bowie album did Adrian Belew play on? And it's Lodger. And I'd never listened to Lodger, and neither has anyone else. Because I knew it was like part three of the Berlin trilogy,
Yeah.
but like it doesn't have any of his famous songs on it. And in
Yeah.
fact,
That's true.
like I went on Spotify to listen to it, and none of the songs have very many plays. Like it's in retrospect, it's not even what like the Bowie heads put on over and over and over
Yeah, I
and
guess
over
so.
again. And I'm like, so like Bowie ran to the end of that with Adrian Belew,
Hmm.
and then came back with Let's Dance with the guitarist being Stevie Ray Vaughan. And like, and kind of Talking Heads got to the end of that arc with Adrian and Belew, and we're like, okay, we need, just like Bowie had made like the pop turn, like,
Time to turn.
okay, I did Brian Eno, I did
Yep. Yep.
Adrian
Yep. Yep.
Belew, we went full art school, like time to dial it back.
Yeah.
And like it's funny that like he has that, and you could say the same for Eno, like the same like position in the like album arc lore, for both of those artists who are just like both so iconic, obviously.
I think that's definitely an interesting observation. And for sure, Talking Heads were trying every few albums to just do something completely different, reinvent themselves, because if you're just going to do the same thing forever, that's maybe not the most exciting thing for them or for anyone listening wanting to buy a new record or see a new show. But obviously, Adrian Belew, after this period, goes to join King Crimson, and suddenly songs like The Great Curve, they're like, don't know that we could do that anymore. We sort of need that guy doing all that stuff. So it puts them in an interesting spot too. They still do Cross-Eyed and Painless because I feel like they felt that they could do it justice. But something about Belew's solos on The Great Curve, just I think they felt we can't even go there. It's too we don't want to let anybody down, and that would do that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I love the cross-eyed and painless performance at the end of Stop Making Sense. Like, and I think that like Burn solos on that they're fire. Like they don't leave anything to be desired. And it's almost like you wish you played more guitar on that whole show because you're like, oh, like you have all that in the tank. Like,
yes,
you just aren't using it.
He's absolutely underrated as a guitarist. There's no question.
We'll have to agree to agree.
Oh wait, we can't leave Stop Making Sense. While we're talking about Stop Making Sense and we're nearly done, I want to squeeze this one in as well. How familiar are you with the set list for Stop Making Sense off the top of your head, or do you need to pull it up to check the songs? Because I have an important question to ask you.
Okay, what's the question? And I'll tell you if I have to pull it up.
So you imagine that you're in a crowded theater, you're sitting there, you're surrounded by people watching a screening or a master screening or whatever. They get to about Slippery People, that's sort of 1/3 of the way through.
Right, yeah.
But all of a sudden you realize you need to go to the bathroom and you're going to have to skip a song to go to the bathroom. You're not going to make it to the end. You have to go. And the question is, what song do you pick to skip to go to the bathroom?
Okay, hold on.
I'll fill while you pull it up. I've asked a few people this, and it's interesting to hear what people say, because some people say some of my favorite songs and songs that are different than other songs in the set list. And I'm like, really? You're really missing out if you pick that one.
Damn, yeah. I mean, honestly, like, okay, this is more of a personal response than a musical response.
That's what I'm wanting.
But as someone who often has to pee, if I have to pee, I'm just going to get up and pee.
Okay. Well,
so probably in the middle of Slippery People.
Oh, well. I've asked a few people that, and no one has ever said, yeah, if it's time to go, it's time to go. I'm not holding on.
I mean, you deal with this a lot. We do van tours for the most part. So, like, we're always sitting in a van. And you know what? Someone always has to pee. And when you raise your hand and you're like, I have to pee, like 2 other people are like, yeah, I have to pee too.
Yeah. I've been waiting for someone else to say it.
You just have to pull over and you have to fucking pee. And it doesn't matter if you're running late to the show or whatever, because people need to pee.
Thank you for that honesty. I appreciate it. Maybe it's too much information for some people. I apologize.
You know what? I stand by it.
As you have to do when you pee on the side of the road. So, Life During Wartime, this isn't the last song on the set list, but we can wrap up our conversation about it with this. An iconic song obviously references a lot of their roots, but also takes them one step forward away from that. So this is also one of the songs, ironically, when David says, if you understand the word, you'll understand the words better for his Zimbra. The common joke about this is that David always gets the words wrong in Life During Wartime when he sings it. Mm-hmm. And yet he never flubs any of the words in his Zimbra. And they're not even real words, you know what I mean? And he's true to form here. This also seems to be the end of the main set.
Yes, I noticed that.
It's very obvious watching it, but then I went and checked the set list and I was like, this is absolutely the end of the set break. They go crazy and they leave the stage. But anyway, I just laid down a whole bunch of stuff there, so you can pick up whatever you want to pick up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a habitual lyrics forgetter as well, so very relatable. But one thing about a lot of Talking Heads songs that I learned when we were learning them to play them is that a lot of times the chorus will be the same except for a couple of words, and they'll change every single chorus, which makes the whole thing a much more difficult exercise in memory. And that was so hard to learn, like when I was trying to learn those songs to sing them. And then after I learned it and figured it out, and I didn't do it 100%, but I did pretty good. I was like, we should start doing that in all our songs. Cool and trick. Like we do it in a lot of songs that we've written since January 2020.
You Always Want to Bomb the Middle East does that, and I think of that. It's a trick you pull on that one.
Yeah, so I mean, it's quite a few of them. So they're, of course they're like a landmine to forget something, but also
yes, exactly. That's it. It's a trap for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. But also it keeps you on your toes, so it keeps you like alert to what you're doing. Like you want to be like in the, it's funny, like you or I want to be like in this musically. I want to just be like on autopilot. Like I want the lyrics to be unthought, and I want the guitar playing to be unthought, because then I can like focus on like being entertaining
What
in
does
some
the moment
way.
need? Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I see what you mean.
So it's like you want it to be on autopilot, but also you like want to be engaged with it and like musically and figure out what is happening in the moment. And like, am I gonna like linger on a lyric longer? Am I gonna change a lyric today because of something in the news or something that happened while we were driving here?
Yes.
Like, and that kind of stuff. So like try not to be too thoughtless. But you like, yeah, I want the execution to like do itself as much as possible, so that like I can see what's happening around me, listen to what the bandmates are doing, like, and kind of be there, rather than like be counting to 4 in my head, or being like, what's the line after this? What's the line after that?
What's the one? Am I in the third time around or the second time around?
Yeah, exactly.
It matters. And everyone in the crowd's going to know if I get it wrong.
You don't want that. You don't want that.
The other thing that I've thought of it before, but it occurred to me during listening to this song in this show was, obviously he says, chest is burning like a furnace. And then obviously in Psycho Killer, he's like, yeah, bed's on fire. And then obviously Burning Down the House will be not far away. And their first single was Love Goes to Building on Fire. So there's that very deliberate calling out of that imagery and that reference. I used to have, a few years ago, Greg, a really good mental list of all the times Cheekface has done that. But I have felt over the years that there are sometimes really specific things that you reference in your lyrics. And then you not just reference them once, you might pepper them in a couple of songs, maybe even across albums. And I always wondered whether that was deliberate or that was just on my mind that day. I was thinking about the medical system. So I mentioned it in that song, and I also mentioned it in this other song. Or because I've got a few, like spilling coffee seems to come up in your songs. Phones, there's millions of references to phones in your songs, but are any of them on purpose? And you're like, the person listening to the album will notice that I reference it in song 2 and in song 10.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's intentional, like, in, I would say, probably every single instance. Like, as we're writing or rewriting, we'll be like, oh, like we can ping back to that and like create the connective threads of like it's good to have connective threads that are big themes, but it's also good to have connective threads that are just an idea or just a little thing. And of course, when you repeat something, it seems to generate more consequence, whether or not the consequence is real. And so like the feeling of generating a consequence is also something we like to play with. Like, can we make this feel important when it isn't? Or when it arguably isn't. So that's like, that's something that we like to play with. And, every album, like kind of go back and forth as we're like cutting vocals, and listening back to, like nearing completion versions. Like, do we like how this lyric resonates with this other one? Does it resonate enough that you'll notice? Like, does it not resonate enough and we need to put more of a spotlight on it? Like stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, there is a, I don't know, there's like a Frank Zappa quote, like to continue the ballooniverse that we're in here. There's like a Frank Zappa quote where he says something to the effect of like, sometimes I'll put in a poodle or a blowjob reference, and it's it's up to the listener to decide if it has a greater meaning or if it's just the if poodles or blowjobs are just the connective tissue of my body of work, and it's like yeah, like like you can leave it to be the art, what connects all these things. Last thought was like, I think there's like a new Avatar movie that's like about to come out or just came out. And I heard a critic talking about it on the radio, and he was like, James Cameron loves water. Why are all his movies about the fucking water?
Yeah, man.
And I was just like, that's just the oeuvre. If you're watching a James Cameron movie, it's about the water.
He's got his thing. All right. Well, let's wrap up our conversation about this show, this set list. Any parting thoughts, any lasting impressions, or anything I haven't probed you about yet that you're burning to tell me?
I mean, I feel like I touched on a lot of my thoughts about the show.
We did a good job, I think.
I do like, yeah, I mean, I definitely watched it from the point of view of like, it's clearly not what they were trying to do with Stop Making Sense. And it's pretty amazing how far the concepts progressed from being really nascent in this show to 2 years later being like so fully blown out into what they are. It's amazing. And the other thing that like I couldn't help but think about was like getting getting a lot of musicians, and two, getting such like high quality and like blue-blooded musicians for this tour. How much money did they have to do that with? Like, that is so expensive. And like, they were not superstars like at the time, or ever probably, like, you know, like alternative icons. Yeah. But like mainstream pop celebrities, no. So, you know, I'm like, how could you afford that? Which is not a question for, you know, but one wonders.
I mean, I think it could have been a lot easier if they had pared things back, but that just wasn't what the moment called for, and well, they did their best.
I mean, yeah, it's really awesome. I'm just like,
no complaints.
I watched that and I'm like, I want an 8-piece band, like, and not just like my 4 homies who are really good, but like 4 people who played in like the best bands.
Incredible.
You know, how do I get that? I don't afford that.
Well, look, I mean, that'll be a mystery that we'll pick up on maybe on another day. But for now, let's wrap things up and bring things to an end. I would love it if you could tell people who maybe have never heard of Cheekface before, or you know, people who follow Cheekface know where to find you. But people whose interest you have piqued, could you let them know where they could follow you if they want to know more? And could you give us a rough idea in 2026 what fans might have in store?
Yeah, so I mean, I would say mostly active on Instagram. That would be the place to find us. We are available to listen to on any DSP, and we have stuff for sale on the merch store. You can buy it globally, and I don't know, we have a fan club called the Stubbs Club. If you are converted by this podcast from casual Cheekface fan to certifiable Cheekfreak, join the Stubbs Club. It really does put the air in the tires of what we're doing as an independent band with no record label. And so those are all things to consider if one were to consider things. And then, we are like, as we tape this last week, we finished our 6th album, finished recording it. So we are in the process of mixing that thing, and it will be out when it's out. And I anticipate we'll be on tour of the US and Canada in late August till the end of the fall, and then probably to the UK after that, and then ... probably not Australia.
And whatever's next. That's okay. I understand.
But you know, if you see us in a Jeep ad, you know, maybe. Then Australia. But yeah, so that's what's going on in Cheekface land.
Thank you so much. And as I've said before, I think if you're Talking Heads enthusiast and you're looking for other bands that are an offshoot, and hopefully this conversation has grounded some of those thoughts about pushing things a little further, taking creativity to new places, and challenging the established norms. Hopefully this has piqued your interest to check out some Cheekface stuff. And if you need any recommendations, feel free to message me or email me, and I'll make you a playlist or something. But for now, Greg from America's local band Cheekface, thank you so much for your time. It's been great to talk to you. All the best for 2026. And
thanks, Rodney. Same to you, and give Poppy all my love.
Thanks so much, Greg. Appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah, you're welcome. Bye-bye.
What a joy to get to talk to Greg. He's so busy touring, writing new records, just living his life. I really appreciate the time that he gave us, and I really appreciate the insights that he gave us into both his musical career, but also his understanding of Talking Heads and their music. But that's it. Have you watched the Talking Heads live in Dortmund show? What did you think of it? Where does it rank in terms of your favorite Talking Heads shows? I'll be back with some more content really soon, and if this was the sort of thing that you enjoyed, let me know so that I can tee up a whole bunch more of these. Otherwise, until next time, take care of yourself. I'll see you really soon. My name's Ben Rod. See you later.